Hello, Joy Brooks from Email and Coffee. Today I'm speaking with Maria Garcia, a woman who at 24 succumbs to a stroke, wakes up in a hospital, realizes that she's paralyzed from the nose down. And the rest of her journey is a rediscovery of health and life. And now, Maria Garcia. Today I'm talking with Maria Garcia. Maria, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey Joy, thanks for having me. A bit about myself. When I graduated college at 22, I thought, what can I do so that I don't have to go to work right away? So what I did was move to Europe, which is what everybody does, right? No, I moved to Europe and I was there for 2 years. And then when I got back, I had been back for approximately half a year and I was living at home. And one day, it was family day, it was a Sunday. My mom made this huge spread and there were a couple of people there. And everything went well. But after the lunch, I went back to my apartment and I was 25 years old at the time. And I started getting sick and sick. And I was on the phone and I started saying things like, the red ocean is near the kitchen table. The bed is saying that it's red. And all of a sudden I thought, holy crap, why is that coming out of my mouth? And why can I not say the words that are in my head? I'm saying something totally different. Somehow I managed to get off the phone. And I fell on my bed in the fetal position with the worst thunderclap headache. To make a long story short, the ambulance was called. They came, looked me over. They thought the same thing I thought, food poisoning. They didn't take me. I ended up at the hospital later that day. And after running a couple of tests, they said, Miss, we think you're having a stroke.
25 years old. 25 years old.
Yeah. And I thought to myself, so much for the food poisoning theory. That was one. Right? And the second thought was, what's a stroke? I had never even heard of the word. It was not in my vocab. And then fast forward to 24 hours later and the surgery to bust the clot. I became paralyzed from here down. So it's also mute.
And that's, how long did that last?
The whole process of recovery lasted a really long time. I would say the better part of 10 years. But the initial total paralysis was about 2 or 3 weeks, where everybody thought of as in a coma vigil, and they thought my eye movements were involuntary. But meanwhile, I'm hearing everything, and I'm seeing. It was very scary and traumatic.
So how long was it before they realized that you were paralyzed, but that you were functioning completely in your head?
A friend of mine came to visit with pictures from a trip that I'd been on with her, and she realized by the look in my eyes that I was understanding. So she went and alerted everyone, and that was probably 2 weeks in. So then they came up with a way to communicate with me, which is blink once for yes, twice for no.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of amazing the things that we do, right? So here you're paralyzed. It's like the next 25 years of your life. How did you don't acclimate, you're forced into another, I don't know, into another cycle, a whole new cycle. What was that like?
At first, it was very difficult because life as I knew it was over. And I wanted my life to be over as well. I couldn't understand why I survived. And I even told my friends, kill me
Mhm.
at the hospital.
Mhm.
But eventually, and with the help of my family, things turned a new leaf and I was able to go from totally paralyzed to moving, then getting a wheelchair, canes, all kinds of canes. First it was a big cane, and I had a walker also for a while.
Mhm. Mhm.
Diapers, the whole works.
Mhm.
It was like a second childhood.
Right, right. So, and here you are, navigating this new life, um, getting like a little bit better and a little bit better. Like, how did that work out? Was it was it recognizable to you? Did you recognize? Wow, I just, I don't know, wiggled my nose type of thing. Like, how did what types of things happened?
Well, the very first thing that happened was I began to move my index finger about 1 centimeter
Hmm.
up. That was my first movement. And little by little, my whole right side began to move.
Hmm.
My speech came later. And just things like getting home in a wheelchair 4 months later and realizing, oh, my wheelchair doesn't fit through any of my doorways. And that's when I graduated to using a walker.
Hmm.
Well, only at home, right, at the moment, but necessity is the mother of all learning.
It really is, and once, I mean, there's quite a lot of feeling sorry for yourself, and then the next day feeling like you're a hero, and then the next day feeling like you're empowered, and then the next day feeling like you want to kill yourself again. I mean, you're going through all of these different feelings. What, like, what, aside from going to therapy, right? You were obviously going to therapy. Aside from going to therapy, what was your day like?
I was doing a lot of therapy, but not only at the center. My family made me do therapy all day long,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much. And I thank them for my recovery because back then, even though I hated it, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought, oh my God, these are a bunch of drill sergeants, today I'm thankful. Today I'm thankful. And I remember specifically, we have a recumbent bike at home, the kind that look like seats. And my mom said, come here, we're going to go do this. I sat on the bike. I go to pedal. My feet slid right off. I could not even keep them on. My mother tied my feet to the pedals.
Mm-hmm.
Tied my feet to the pedals.
She wasn't going to let you lose. She wasn't. Doesn't sound like she was going to, by any chance let you lose. So, obviously, you're standing up, you're moving your hands, you're talking. What happened?
So I did a lot of therapy. I did hyperbarics. I did therapy in Germany. I did chelation therapy. I did all kinds of things. After all, I was 25, and I thought, holy crap, this can't be the rest of my life. And I played with my diet. I was pescatarian first,
Mhm.
then I became full-blown vegetarian. And I would say at about 15 years post-stroke, I was maybe 75% recovered, which was pretty good coming from my deathbed,
Mhm.
but still, it wasn't optimal. Then I found the nutrition program online, and my first thought was, oh, this sounds so cool. And then my second thought was, but I don't need this because I already eat really healthy. I already work out, modified my workout. And I didn't think it would benefit me in any way, really, other than learning new things about a topic I already liked.
Mhm.
But something inside me said, go for it, just do it. And I did. And 3 months later, some of my white hair turned dark. That was one of the things that I was like, wow. My skin, hair, and nails were better. I was more outspoken. My organs were de-aging. And the reason I say that, and I know it might be a little bit too much info, but I'll tell you anyway. My period became stronger like it had been 10 years prior.
Right. Well, that for a woman, that's very telling.
Yeah,
Because one of the things that would happen to a woman who's not in good health is that, she might lose her period altogether.
exactly. And within 6 months, I kept a list of all the changes that happened within me, which to date, to right now, I'm on the fourth page. But within the 6 months, I had recovered another 20%. And I was so blown out of the water because this was 15 years after a stroke. And it was 5 years at least since I had plateaued. And I hadn't gotten any better. And all of a sudden, here I am going hiking. I mean, real hikes, 3 or 4 hours long. The next day, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. My legs are going to kill me. Slight discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even tell. And I was so blown away. Even my blood pressure. I go to my doctor once, and the PA takes my blood pressure, and she looks at me and says, oh, it's 120/83. And I was like, what? She says, it's normal. She didn't look at my chart to see that I've never in a million years had normal blood pressure, even before the stroke. It had always been 90/60 and just ridiculously low. And all of a sudden it was normal. And I also noticed that because I live in New Jersey and it gets cold.
Mm-hmm.
And every winter, the second I stepped outside, it was like, pew,
Yeah.
Rudolph is here.
Yeah. No, it's really cold, right? Right. And your hands are always cold, and your feet are always cold. So food is
And
medicine. So food is medicine, eh?
Yes. Food is medicine. I wouldn't say it's exactly medicine, but it's the lack of nutrients and the things that the body needs, the absence that causes illness. Because if you think of food as medicine, people say, well, I'll eat well when I'm sick.
Mm-hmm.
No, you want to eat well to prevent getting sick.
Yeah. What type of a program like are you on? How do you manage your diet? Like what's the basic thought process that goes into this? Do you
There are a lot.
this way? Are there things that you don't eat and things that you do eat, or is it more along the lines, like basically how is it organized? How is your diet organized?
One of the big things is I don't eat processed foods. I think that's almost common knowledge, but because of convenience or whatever, people just don't do it. But it's so important. So important.
Sometimes I've seen people refer to those types of things as, oh, gosh, I don't know how to say it, an indulgence, right? So like, oh, I can have, a bag of potato chips. And I think of it as if, why would you even want to eat a bag of potato chips? Like, why would you think that you've had a really good week and you deserve a bag of potato chips? And how do you change that frame of mind?
That's a very interesting thing because think of it this way. If you have a Ferrari, and you drive it 100 miles, and you're going 100 miles an hour, when you go get gas, do you put super or do you put a no-name cheap gas? No, you want the best gas. So why are we treating ourselves to things like potato chips? Why are we calling it a treat to treat ourselves poorly? because that's what it is.
I know. That's sort of the mindset that we need to get out of. A lot of people, it's convenience. So how do you get yourself out of that mindset of saying, okay, potatoes are okay. Let's assume potatoes are okay. Are potatoes okay? Potatoes are okay. Sweet potatoes are okay. Whatever. So, now do I have to become a chef? What do I do? How do I get into healthy eating mindset?
I think you have to want it. That's number one. You have to want to change in your life because it's very easy to fall back into old ways. Number two, diets don't work. Diets do not work. Everybody makes a New Year's resolution. Already yesterday was what's known as National Quitters Day. People's resolutions last that long. Anything you try to do using willpower is only going to get you so far.
Mhm.
And that's the beauty of this program, is that you're not using willpower. We're educating people to the point where they do not lose sight of their health ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And we also do a deep dive into food psychology and behavioral change psychology.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get people to change?
Is there a workaround convenience?
I call myself the lazy chef, right? So I like convenience as much as the next guy. Certain things you can't get around. You could do things and do the minimal work, but I mean, can you boil an egg?
Mm-hmm.
Is that difficult? Can you cook maybe a piece of chicken
Mm-hmm.
on the pan? Just one step at a time, just do things slowly. And I could say that for me, if I look at a recipe and I see more than 6 or 7 ingredients, I'm like, too much,
Right.
too much.
But do you do it? Do you do it now? No, you
Not
won't.
just over. No.
So the thing is that you can still eat healthy with minimal ingredients and manage. Do you meal plan? So like it's like food shopping day. Do you meal plan? Like how do you manage the process?
I used to do a little bit more planning by making lists on my phone of what I need. But now I just open up my fridge and okay, then I'll make this, whatever I have in it. But I do understand that when you're making the change, it's easier to have a guideline,
Yeah,
right? But then you just become so used to it. It becomes it's your identity. It's the way you do things. So unless you're making meals for many people, which I don't do that. I'm cooking for myself.
right.
So
Do you so you have a program, and actually you're a coach in that program, right? How can people find that and connect with you? You're on the web,
to
right?
connect, yeah, to connect with me, just go to my website, genuinelymaria.com. That's
Genuinely Maria.
genuinely.com.
Genuinelymaria.com. Okay, good. So
If you'd like, just book a discovery call. They're free. We
good,
can chat, see who you are.
good. It's I have a lot of rules and regulations in what I eat and what I don't eat, but I would call it a diet, but I would call it you know a diet for all time. It's not I'm going on a diet. It's I'm on a diet type of a thing where if I were to live in a different area with different foods, the diet would change because I would have access to different types of foods. And that's the point. Doesn't it depend on where you are and or is there any implication to living in North America, or living in Africa, living in Europe. I mean, you go on a trip, you go on vacation, you're not cooking. What do? There's
So I
all
would
these
say yes.
implications of what do you do?
I would say yes and no. There are implications, but there aren't. Wherever you are, you look for the things that they have. Because if you go, for example, to India or something, they may not have avocados.
Right.
They may not have certain things. And so you base your diet a little bit on that, but also we teach people to eat seasonally, but based on the seasons in sub-Saharan Africa. And seasons indicate to your body different things. But you could do this wherever you are in the world,
Right.
and you could find stuff.
You do need to educate yourself, but that's a responsibility, right? It's your body. You've, like you were talking about the car. This is an engine. You have an engine. It's yours. It's your responsibility to put the right stuff in the engine.
Yeah, but you know what's sad, Joy? I was fortunate or unfortunate, however you want to look at it, to totally lose my health at 25 years old. But health is lost so incrementally that it's not something people are concerned with. It's
Yeah.
not something people prioritize.
Yeah, you don't necessarily realize that you're building up to a chronic situation, whether it's swollen ankles, or you know colitis, or some sort of an issue.
Yeah,
And I mean, we're talking about genetics to some extent has something to do with it. I mean, we're not saying that the food you ate gave you a stroke. That might have happened regardless, right? Might.
might. I'm saying might with a grain of salt because the more I go down this rabbit hole, the more I realize that humans as a species are not diseased. And that when certain things happen, like in my case, stroke, or the next guy, lupus, there's something going on. It's not like magic pixie dust
Yeah.
of unluck. There's some type of imbalance.
Right. I mean, we're suffering from numerous types of immunosuppressant or immuno reactions these days. With nut allergies, and lupus, and a lot of different types of immuno reactions, and it could be attributed to the fact that I mean, scientifically, these um, diseases, or these issues, may have all been apparent forever. We just didn't know that they existed. And now with more science, we know they exist. But there's also the quality of food,
Huge.
in an effort to feed millions. It's gone on an assembly line, and it's turned into ding dongs and Ritz crackers and cans of
Mhm.
soup. And it doesn't need to be that. And so many of us have been accustomed to that. What's for dinner? Open a can. What's for dinner? Go out. What's for dinner? We're not taught, we're not educated about food. We know the basics. Oh, it's a protein. But and we're like, oh, proteins build muscle. It's protein's good. But we're not really taught how much protein. I mean, we're taught you should have some protein, but people will say, well, I'm a vegetarian and I get my protein from beans, right? How much protein is that? It's enough. It's some measurement. I mean, we're not really aware of what we're putting in our bodies. We
We're
know
not.
we
This
make decisions, and they may not necessarily be the wisest decisions.
right, and we're not. aware of that because nobody ever taught us that. And I think people lost their connection to the earth long ago. And then now when people are just lost and they don't know what is right for their bodies.
It's I'm not necessarily saying that we should all be drinking castor oil, but um, we should know and we should be aware that some foods have omega-3s in them, and we need omega-3s, and we should not say, well, I don't like the way that tastes, and I don't eat fish because it tastes fishy. But if you put yourself in a mindset where, okay, the fish has omega-3s and my body needs omega-3s, and if for whatever reason I gag when I smell fish, I still need to get omega-3s. So you need to be aware, okay, I have to search out foods with omega-3s and put them in my diet. How much food do I, just eat omega-3s? I mean, you have to be aware of what you're doing.
And speaking of castor oil, it's funny you mentioned that. I put a drop of castor oil in my belly button in the evenings. I don't drink it, but I do that instead.
Do I want to ask you why? Is it going to be too much information? It just cleans out your belly button?
That and your skin is better. I drink a lot of water as well, but
Right.
if
Okay,
you're
let's take a
a
break.
little
Let's drink water.
oh, my water's too far away.
Okay, well, you mentioned it. So remember we were talking and you said, how do you make sure you drink water? Well, this is how I make sure. Go ahead. We were talking about castor oil and belly buttons, yes.
It hydrates you, and there are a couple of other benefits that I don't recall off the top of my head, but it's really good for you. Look it up online. Castor oil.
I know we for a while when I was young, there was mineral oil, right? But for my grandmother, it was castor oil. It wasn't mineral oil. And I don't think you drink mineral oil. But I know my grandmother would take castor oil. I know that.
Yeah.
For a fact. She would take. She would also put cucumbers on her eyes
Mm-hmm.
and butter on her skin.
It probably helped. I have no idea. Maybe it did.
Well, if it wasn't butter, it was olive oil. So she would like use olive oil instead of, Lancome.
Well, it's probably better for you. I'll tell you that.
Well, the point is that it's sort of, once you start learning, and it's not difficult to learn. Once you start learning and you begin to go back to basics, it becomes, talk about convenient. It becomes pretty simple, right? I mean, now you've got building blocks in place for yourself where you know what you like, what you don't like. You don't have to you're not thinking of well, first of all, you're helping the planet because you're not eating everything out of plastic and boxes and going to McDonald's all the time. That's one thing. But you've got these building blocks where, as you said, once you get to a point, you don't necessarily have to meal plan because you could say, I'm hungry. Oh, look, I've got some eggs. I've got, whatever, and you make yourself a dinner. I mean, if you're dealing with a family, it's different. Do you have people in your practice that are feeding families?
I do some of them, yeah. And they just make things in the slow cooker, for example. That's very easy. You throw everything in the cooker, and 8 hours later, boom, you have a meal.
Right. And the earlier you expose children to good food, obviously, the better.
Oh, absolutely.
The better they'll eat, the better they'll grow, and they won't have lots of bad habits as they get older.
It drives me insane when I see little kids, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and their parents are like, here, have a Coke. Here. They don't even know what Coke is. Why are you giving it to them?
I know. It basically takes the paint off the side of your house and you're feeding it to Junior.
Yep.
But soda again, soda. When I was growing up, it was it was uh, basically seltzer. Seltzer. We didn't drink soda. It was seltzer. And I've heard some people who say, because they're so used to carbonated beverages, that they'll make from seltzer, they'll make their own soda. I mean, which is better than buying soda. I don't know. Is carbonated is like a carbonated water a bad thing?
I would not say it's a bad thing. I would say make the majority of your water intake still water. But if you feel like you need carbonation in your water, you could do that too. Just make the majority of it still water. Because your body doesn't like the carbonation, and that's the reason we burp.
So, hmm, what is what is your feeling about meat, red meat? Coming from
I
a
can,
previous vegetarian.
okay. This is just my opinion
Yes.
based on a lot of research. And also, the one thing I'll say that if anything contradicts evolutionary biology, which is we've been eating meat for thousands of years. For example, if there's a new study that says, well, meat is bad, really? We've been eating it for 2 million years. Is it really bad? I don't know. And I'm going to say something that might be contradictory to other people's beliefs, but the fact is that red meat is a superfood.
I think the problem. I mean, a lot of people may not. A lot of people that say I don't eat meat. The problem is that it's processed, and that's difficult, right? I mean, I understand that when you say that you like to eat minimally processed food, then you have to think about what does that mean about the meat that I eat, or the chicken that I eat, or
Right.
any of the eggs that I eat. How do you are you very aware of that, and so you buy particular brands? I mean, let's put it this way: when you go into the food markets, you put your glasses on and make sure that you can read all the labels. Is that the type of shopper you are?
Oh my God, yes.
I thought so.
Yeah.
No, I do the same thing, and I don't see a problem with that. I think that people should be aware of what they're buying, right?
Yeah.
So,
If it's got a list of ingredients like this
uh-huh.
that you can't pronounce,
Yeah, no, no.
why are you eating it?
I mean, I'll say I need, I don't know. Let's say something ridiculous. I need ketchup, right? I'll read all the labels and try to find something with the least amount of anything.
Yeah,
And then I'll be like,
I agree.
I need the ketchup because I'm having whatever, hamburgers, whatever, and people like ketchup. And I don't want to say, no, you don't have ketchup. That's terrible. I'll buy the best ketchup I can. And if it's a little more expensive, I almost don't mind. And I shouldn't say that because obviously, some people need to scrimp and save. And I get that. So there are options. Let's say if you are brave, I'm not saying you can make your own ketchup, but you can certainly take tomatoes and turn it into salsa. You could do different things with normal foods. And
And if you look up recipes for ketchup, you can even find those.
right, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I understand that people want to have free time to go out and do exciting things, but if that means, and maybe this is controversial and maybe it's just my opinion, if that means that I need to eat crap so that I can go and do something in the afternoon with someone else, I think that I need to sacrifice doing something with someone else so that I don't need to eat crap.
Yeah, but that's not a very good way to see it because you're not thinking long term, you're thinking immediate convenience. But can you imagine all of a sudden not having any health whatsoever? My life at 25 stopped. It just stopped. Period. And maybe you don't have that drastic of an experience as I did, but health is lost so incrementally that people now in their 60s, maybe their 40s, they start noticing aches and pains, right? And it progresses from there. But what I will say about that is that what we know of as aging, what we think of as aging, becoming decrepit and maybe losing mobility, is actually, get ready for this, abnormal aging. It's abnormal aging.
To some extent, to some extent, it's I can see that, or at least we can take as much. I'm not going to say control because there's sometimes a, a piano can fall on your head. I mean, really, but um, we take responsibility for things, and I don't understand why you would rather take um, your bucket list and put all these material things on your bucket list and sacrifice your health. I used to say to my husband all the time, because he would go out, he'd say, "Oh, Joy, you have to go out and get a lottery ticket because, the lottery's a few $1,000,000. And I would say, "I got a good idea, Harry. Let's just not buy the lottery ticket and put that luck into our health." And he would look at me and go, "What?" And I'd be like, if I'm going to play lotto, I would rather win health than win the $1,000,000.
And you know what? That's wonderful insight from you. And it would be beautiful if people had that same insight. People don't. They just do not think of health until it's gone.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
And again, this is not something that is totally out of anybody's possible way to manage. Perhaps it seems to be something that you can't manage because you're so used to buying smart foods, smart ones, or whatever. You're so used to stopping at Taco Bell. You're so used to those things that you think, I can't stop doing it because I'm very busy. But I would say that if you talk with someone, talk with somebody like Maria, and you'll learn the insight into starting to change that thought process.
Yeah. And the first step is awareness. Just simple awareness. Because you don't realize that there's a problem, you can't change it.
Yeah, you can't change it. What is the best story? I mean, aside from the fact, your story is the best story, but some stories for some of the people that you've worked with. What are some great stories where you've seen people's health progress over an amount of time with working with a program?
There are so many, but the ones that stand out in my mind are one 86-year-old client, female. She was injecting insulin for 10 years. Her doctors tried everything to get her to change her diet. She was on 53 units per day. I think after about 8 or 9 weeks, she stopped injecting insulin.
A lot of people with diabetes don't realize that it's their diet, and they think, "Oh well, I'm eating, I'm eating okay things. I don't know why you're saying," and they may be, but the things that they're eating, okay, maybe it's not ring dings, right? Maybe it's not Entenmann's cookies, whatever, but it still may be processed bread, processed cereal,
Yeah.
those types of things where they don't realize, eat the egg. You don't need to, you take Eat the whole egg. You don't need to buy egg whites in the store. Eat the whole egg.
Exactly. And that's another thing. The food industry purposely creates confusion. They call it cognitive dissonance, and they'll print one day, oh, eggs are good for you. The next day, oh, eggs are bad for you. And they do it on purpose so that finally people just go,
Right.
I'm going to do whatever I want because even the science doesn't agree. And a really interesting story with that is that one paper published something about eggs being good. And then the following year, they published something called Eggs Cause Diabetes. That was the headline. Eggs cause diabetes. But then when you read the article and you go to all the way to the bottom and you go look at the study, this is what they found. Eggs in women caused an increase in blood sugar. Why? Because women didn't like to eat the eggs whole. Women ate the eggs baked in cookies, baked in cake. Of course.
That's not eggs. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, baking something, but that's not eating eggs. Again, it's like I said, I'll just drink seltzer. I don't have to drink water. No,
Right.
you need to drink water. Seltzer's okay, but yeah, or I used to fool myself and I used to say, well, there's water in my coffee. And I'm like, no, Joy, you need to drink water. Just
Yeah,
plain water.
exactly.
I try to drink 32 ounces all at once, immediately in the morning.
Yeah. I drink about a liter in the morning too.
That's what I try to do. That's what I try to do. And before my coffee. And it's not always, well, this is the this is the way that I said to myself, get more water in your body. And that was one of the ways. Then after that, any kind of water that I do have is extra, but at least I've gotten that 32 ounces. Because I find for me, I don't think of water. And that's another thing. Either people think of water all the time and they're always drinking water. I mean, you see people, it's just an odd thing these days. You'll see people walking around with a bottle. Everybody.
Yeah.
And is that good? Is that bad? What is that?
Our food, when our ancestors lived in Africa, had a very high water content. The food that was growing and the food. So they didn't have water bottles. Number one, because there was no such thing, but they didn't need them. Today, for example, if you go eat Pringles or something, they have a negative water content.
Right.
So hydration is really, really important.
Yeah.
I do stand by that. Carrying your water bottle.
So everybody go get yourself, you don't have to get a Stanley Cup. Well, if you want, you get a Stanley. Yeah, I just have a regular water bottle. I fill it up. I have two. So I try to drink 64. I cannot get past 64. Sorry. It's difficult for me. I don't know. I try really hard. Okay, here you go.
You know what really helps with hydration?
What?
And you know how they tell us, oh, drink Gatorade because you need electrolytes.
Right.
Yes,
Right.
I totally agree you need electrolytes. But you do not need Gatorade.
No.
You can just use a bit of Himalayan salt in your water and it hydrates great. It's electrolytes, pure electrolytes.
Right. What kind of salt?
Himalayan sea
salt.
salt.
Okay.
Himalayan salt.
Right. Yeah, it's that
Pink salt.
Gotcha, pink salt. Yes. So do you have any other tips like that? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Tip. Another tip, everybody. Tip
Oh, I
number
have so
2.
many of them. Get out in the sun.
How much, obviously, or not so obviously?
20 minutes a day, if possible.
Yeah, get out in the sun. Vitamin D? What's the story with vitamin
Yes.
D and vitamin K? K2.
I take a vitamin D in the winter because I do not get out even 20 minutes a day, unfortunately, some days. So I do supplement, and that's the only supplement I will take. Because it's a fat-soluble vitamin, I buy one that already has olive oil in it with the vitamin D.
Okay. Oh, okay. So that brings us up the conversation and the topic of supplements. So how do you feel about those? Another thing, putting you on the spot.
That's a very charged question.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something controversial once again. I think most supplements are expensive urine.
It's I'd say that there's a lot of people that agree with you. Like you said, vitamin D might be necessary in the winter, right? And some electrolytes, right? Like you said. But if you're aware of the vitamin, again, if you teach yourself about food and what it's doing for you, then you become aware that, the eggs that I eat have omega-3s, they have vitamin E, they have protein. Okay, good. And you basically, I don't necessarily need people to keep these long, ridiculous journals where they're writing everything down. But if they begin to in the beginning, I guess this is my tip, maybe begin to analyze what they're eating and what the contents is, and they may be able to prepare themselves for the next journey, which is, buying the best gas to put in their gas tank.
Yeah, and I think it's even easier than that because, first of all, the recommended daily allowance, scrap that. It doesn't work. That's more like this. Humans need these things, these building blocks. See what you can get in a year, and good luck. It's not like, oh, I need to eat so many fruits and vegetables a day. It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about those guidelines. And the food pyramid, that's another
God,
something you throw away because it does not work.
So do you have food staples that you recommend?
Yeah.
What should everybody have in their refrigerator?
I like to have eggs. I like to have salmon, wild caught if possible. Well, I always have wild caught, and otherwise I don't have it, but I understand that maybe you can't have wild salmon because it is very cost prohibitive, and it seems that protein has gone up in the last 3 years like crazy. But maybe you can get a can of wild caught tuna or wild caught salmon.
Right. What are the types of things? So you've got eggs and salmon. And fortunately, I have those things in my refrigerator, so keep going. I feel good. You're making me feel good.
I have all kinds of frozen meats. And then I just buy veggies and sweet potatoes and whatever else.
There's a difference between sweet potatoes and potatoes? White, like Yukons or other types of potatoes. Sweet potatoes and Yukons.
They're a totally different family. Sweet potatoes and white potatoes are totally different. They're not related. White potatoes are more like empty calories. And they're actually not that great for you because they're part of the nightshade family.
Mm-hmm. And
so they're not great.
So wait, but other nightshades are like eggplant and peppers, and those are okay. No, yes, peppers are.
Yes, that there's a caveat there.
Okay.
I mean, I eat those things once in a while,
Mm-hmm.
but if you have, for example, something like autoimmune,
Mm-hmm.
they're not good for autoimmune. So there you would have to not have them or eliminate them for a while so you can get rid of your autoimmune condition.
Right. And that's the thing, if you learn a little bit about your body and you become responsible and you feed it appropriately, you'll begin to realize the high octane that is best for you. If you go through life blindly, I guess, if you go through life blindly saying I don't feel well, and you keep stuffing your mouth with the same food, and then the next day I don't feel well, and you just keep going that way, that's I don't know what to say. It's totally irresponsible. I don't understand why you wouldn't realize there's like something wrong here and I need to fix it. And you might not know what to do, so go to a specialist. And that specialist may or may not be a doctor. I mean, you could start with a doctor, but sometimes you need to find someone like yourself, a nutritionist, or someone who I mean, you're not only someone who's interested in a particular program, but you're also somebody that has had a particular experience.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
so
So learn from my experience, people.
yeah, learn from experience. And the thing is, I mean, you had life altering experience, but as you said, we're all having our bodies are all changing every day because of what we do and don't do. And if we become aware of ever so slightly aware of, oh, that didn't feel right. Oh, what's wrong with that? And think, well, maybe it's something I ate last night. What did I eat last night? Or maybe it's the extra exercise that I did, or, when I fell down the flight of stairs, whatever. You become aware of the things that are going on around you. And I don't understand why we take food for granted.
Part of the issue is that, for example, when you have a migraine or something happening to you, you don't connect it to what you ate. Why? Because it doesn't happen immediately. And so you forget and you don't add two and two together. But back to the stories you were asking me about. I had one client, he was scheduled for a sciatic operation. He came to me on crutches. And one day he gets on the Zoom call, because we do this online, and he gets on the Zoom call and he starts running in place with no crutches. He canceled his operation, sciatica. We would never think in a million years sciatica has anything to do with food. Apparently it did.
Well, there's something swollen in the body. I
Yeah.
mean, it could be vertebrae, but it could be something else that is resting against the vertebrae that you relieve that. And it's the body is a little, it's an engine. And you bring your car to a mechanic, and you would not think of bringing your car. You would not want to bring your car to the worst mechanic on the block.
You know what, Joy? I love that analogy because we are like cars that go to mechanics. Think of this. We go to doctors who understand nothing about food. Would you want to go to a mechanic who doesn't know what gasoline is, what transmission fluid is, what are the other fluids? You wouldn't do that. But the way Western medicine is set up, these doctors, they get maybe 2 months tops nutrition, and most get zero nutritional education. So you're just symptoms, treating symptoms instead of causes.
Yeah, that's the truth, and I think everybody can agree with that. I mean, they'll be more likely to tell you to take a multivitamin and give you a prescription than sit you down and say, let's go over your diet. What have you been eating for the past 6 months?
Yeah.
Do you get enough exercise? How much water are you drinking? How much alcohol do you ingest? I mean, all of those things. So do you say no to all desserts? What's a dessert?
The ones I make. I make the best brownies ever. Yeah, I eat desserts, but I eat them seasonally. I don't eat them all year. Sometimes I may take a month of break, 2 months, then I go back to eating them. But it's the ones I make with ingredients that are not going to harm my body.
Right. There's a lot
They're not going
of,
to do
I'm sorry, go ahead.
some of the ingredients are not going to nourish my body, but they will not hurt my body either.
Right. I mean, they're chocolate by itself isn't an offender, but adding the sugar and the those things that metabolize it and make it whatever darker or lighter or those are the things that stabilize food. Those are the things. It's like sometimes you read it and it'll be like, oh, look, formaldehyde.
That's
Wait
awful.
a minute, doesn't that embalm people? What is it doing in my food? And you'd be surprised. Sometimes you will actually see things like formaldehyde.
The funniest thing I saw was a piece of chicken. Like chicken, just imagine a piece of chicken. The ingredients were chicken, water, and sugar. Why is there sugar in chicken?
Yeah, I don't know. Sweet chicken, I don't know. Well, again, we're used to very sweet things. Where because over time everything's been sweetened, so we drink sweet coffee, sweet tea, sweet soda, sweet water, whatever. Everything we do is sweet, and the opposite is everything. Sweet, salty, sour. These are things that are natural things for us to crave, like crave something sweet. And no one would say, you say to somebody, oh yeah, you're craving a sweet. Well, here's a date, right? Here's a date. Eat the date. Or here's a piece of cake. They go right for the cake. Right?
Yeah.
I don't like dates, or a fig or a piece of fruit, whatever. So whatever's in season, people would probably go for the cake, go for the cookie. That's what they would do naturally. And
Because our bodies want to get as much fat and sugar as possible. But there's a reason for that.
okay,
Our bodies we were designed to crave sugar, to prepare us to put on weight for the winter. And that's the evolutionary reason why we're predisposed to wanting sugar. It's so we could survive through the winter. Speak around fat. But food manufacturers, they know this. They caught on. So they're making everything sweet so that we like it better and we go for their things.
right. We literally rewire ourselves, and we forget that, no. What types, like, what is there? Are there any types of food that, how do I put this? Some diets will say no rice, no potatoes, no noodles. They'll just like X out all these carbs, like a keto diet. I mean, are those diets? And those are diets. Again, those are when you go on a diet. Are those, or a calorie diet? All of these different things, so that you can maintain a particular weight profile. You throw those out, like you don't think, like, how do you prepare somebody who wants to, let's say, lose or gain weight? Either one. How do you prepare their mindset?
So the body does not want to carry around extra weight. The body wants to release. However, it doesn't come through calories or calorie counting. Everything you know about calories, that's end run accounting. Throw it out. Calories is an outdated mode. Food is more about the messages it's giving your body. think of it as a language. Certain foods say certain things to your body, and others say other things. And some foods you eat, and your body's like, "What the heck is this? I don't even know what this is."
But for some people, oh gosh, some people who are obsessed with food. So they don't know how much, they don't know how much to eat. So they'll use calories because it will tell them, oh, well, this is how much you should eat, but you're saying you shouldn't do it that way. So how do people train themselves to know what goes on their plate and how much? And when, I mean, you think I'm full, I'll stop, but that's not necessarily how people are. How do you begin to train somebody?
The way it works in this program is that it's a very slow, step-by-step process, so that your people don't look at a list and go, "Holy crap, I'm not doing this ever."
Yeah.
Because that's how diets work. You go with all your willpower, and you get a list, and you go, "Yes, I'm gonna do all these things." You get to day 6, and you're like, pfft, willpower out the window.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that we tell people, do not get hungry. We don't do portion control. Eat as much as you need in whatever season you're in. And some seasons are for building, some seasons are for weight loss, and a season is for maintenance. And so whatever is your goal, if you want to release or lose weight, you're in a certain season. If you're looking to maintain, you're in a different season. If you're looking to build, you're in a different season.
Would summer be the building season and winter be the resting season? If you
Close.
were a bear, it would.
That's close. The way we name it is winter means fasting.
Yeah.
So we do maybe 3-day fasts once in a while. But you don't want to live in winter because obviously you would die.
Yeah, we're not bears.
Right.
We're not bears.
Right.
Maybe somewhere else on the chain, but not exactly the same. Yeah.
And the season for losing weight is what we call spring. For maintaining is summer. And for building is fall. Because fall is when you're building to hibernate or to fast. You want to get fat.
Talking about fasting. That word, let's put it this way. Some people are so into fasting. And if that word to me scares me. It's like, what? I'm not going to eat? How long am I not going to eat? I cheat and I have my last meal's at 3:00. So from 3 to breakfast the next day, that's my fast. And that is easy for me. But if you were to tell me that my last meal would be 3 and I wouldn't be eating until 3 days later, Friday, and then the next meal would be Monday, I would go out of my mind. I don't know how to, how do you work up to a fast?
So what you're doing is intermittent fasting, right, which is beautiful. There are also benefits to 72-hour fasts. 3 days. I know it sounds like a lot. However, the people that, I would say this, do not attempt to fast unless you're very well hydrated and very well nourished. Once that's in order, then you can do a fast. And one of my last classes now, I had a client that went through a fast by himself, and he didn't think he'd be able to, and he said, this was so easy. He did a 72-hour fast by himself.
I go to bed at night and I'm thinking about, tomorrow morning I'm going to have. I love food. I really do love food. I mean, I have a healthy obsession with food, but there's still that word, obsession. I'm definitely obsessed with food. I like to play with it. I like to, get recipes. A lot of my life is built around food. I make people happy with food. I watch, if people were to say, you know, get rid of Facebook, I'd be like, well, I won't, where would I get my recipes? Because that's where I get all my recipes from the TikToks and all the, that's where I get my recipes. So, I'm, yeah, I'm obsessed. Yeah.
Was it like that when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, let's see, when I was growing up, TV dinners, my, we didn't have a lot of money. So, TV dinners were cheap. Um, I mean, we would have eggs for dinner. We would have tuna for dinner. So there are a lot of times that, I mean, I remember having sour cream and cottage cheese with vegetables for dinner. For dinner, that was dinner. So my mother had to make the money, stretch for the week, and she did. She did pretty well. So, and she cooked. She cooked, and she cooked well. And I became a vegetarian at 15, or maybe it was 14. And I stayed a vegetarian until I was 40. And my dentist would say to me over and over again, will you stop this? This is not good. My dentist told me that. He goes, just eat a piece
Yep.
of chicken. Please, just eat a piece of chicken.
Yep.
And I put fish back into my diet. Like for the first maybe 10 years, I was vegan. Then eggs went in. Then, so dairy went back. And then fish went back. And that fish, I stayed a pescatarian for many years, till I was about 40. And then I married, and my husband said, if eat the steak and shut up. And, oh, this is good. And that was that, I came back. But I can't remember the point of what I was saying. But, people identify with the way they eat.
They do. They absolutely do. And what I've seen over and over again is that people, for example, you have somebody eating the standard American diet. Then all of a sudden they said, well, now I'm going to shift my life and I'm going to become a vegan. And they become a vegetarian or vegan. And their experience or their health, it shifts so dramatically that they attribute it to becoming a vegetarian when it's all the other stuff they removed. That's the reason that they're feeling so well. Not because they removed the meat, but because of all the other stuff.
Right. Exactly. And that's telling, is that they'll say, oh, I feel so much better. That's because there's no ding dongs in the vegetarian diet. It's not because they're eating any necessarily, that the vegetarian diet is okay. It's that they've dropped a lot of the other, the potato chips, whatever, hopefully. I mean, if anybody gets anything out of this, it's just to check the wrappers. Minimally processed. If there's a list of items that's in your food, if there's more than 3 commas, really consider what you're doing.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
And it's hard. I understand. It's really hard when you've got a family and you're trying to put, when I say calories, you've got a family and you've got children, and they need I'm not saying you need to be calorie conscious, but they need calories for energy. So they need that food, right? And they need a lot of it, a lot more than adults do, because they're building blocks, and it's difficult. So, you may say, oh, just buy the chocolate chips because, Junior needs something to eat. He needs dessert. But it's just as easy to say, well, let's just make sure that there's a fruit salad. And no, not a can of fruit salad.
Right.
I mean, what types of things, how about this one? What types of things, do you recommend that people have on hand? And again, you're saying people shouldn't go hungry. So that they should have on hand as snacks, or to make sure they don't go hungry. To break the
Some of the
bad
things
habits and start the new habits.
maybe hummus, if you like hummus.
Ooh,
That's good.
so are they
All
gonna
kinds of
like dip their fingers into hummus so they celery in hummus?
well, that works.
'Cause what
I dip my fingers sometimes.
I know, hummus is dip a spoon into it. Um, it's like they'll buy hummus and then they'll get themselves chips. So it's like, no, no.
No, you could do it with veggies, crudités, and even you could spoon it. You could spoon it. I've done that. That's like my old Nutella. I used to eat Nutella
Yeah,
by the spoon.
right, right. I I took a walk today, and on the way back from the walk, I began to feel my sugar drop, which I haven't had that in a very long time. But I really felt I was like, I've got to go to the bathroom, and I feel I'm like it's my sugar, like it's dropping fast. I didn't know why, and I thought, okay, I'll just cut this short and get home, and you know, get something. And what was it that I got? Um, I ate like I have a can of nuts, and I like was stuffing my mouth with cashews and pistachios and almonds, and I was like, "This is what I want." Isn't that odd? And it's not that it was high protein. You would think that I would go home and eat an egg, but I got in the house and I was like, "What do I want?" I basically don't have bad things in my cabinets. So I think the worst thing that I might have are raisins. So I'm I'm like, what do I want? I'm like nuts, and I did, and I had nuts, and I then had after that, then I made myself an egg, and I felt better, and I thought, um, am I the only one who pays attention to their body? Like, would someone else not know? Like, would think, oh, I'm not feeling well, and not realize that their sugar was dropping?
I think when you are so loaded with toxins, it's very difficult to make the connection and understand your body. Once you go through a process of radically shifting your diet, then you start to become more aware of what's going on with your body. And I think having this round, that's great. Perfect.
Any last tips that you want to leave with people?
Of all the things I mentioned, I mean, water is really, really important. And I know everybody says it, drink 8 glasses, and we never do it. And when they told me to do it, I was like, but I'm not thirsty, I can't drink. Yeah. So once I did it, I realized, wow, what a difference. I could tell though, 3 days later that I was waking up not as groggy, I had more energy. It really makes a huge impact.
Yeah.
So hydration is so important.
Any tips? Any like hacks so that people drink? Like I do. Like if I walk into the kitchen, I make sure I drink water. Like I go in there, there's a thing of water I drink.
Yeah,
Things like
I'll give you mine. What I did was I would put a post-it with marks on it. But there's also apps that remind you drink water. But I did it very like old school. I just got a post-it and started marking it.
yeah, there are things that we could do to get us back into habits, better habits. And I think it's worth. I don't think that healthy food is more expensive than anything else. I don't think so. I think we assume that because when you take a look at a whatever, you think, oh, if I don't uh, go to the supermarket and I do takeout, it will be less expensive. I don't think that's true.
I don't think it's true either, and I'm going to tell you what one of my clients, actually more of my clients, said to me. Yes, when you're buying certain things, it may be pricier, but you need less of it.
Right.
You need less of it so you're not buying all the stuff that you're filling your body up with. Because when you're really nourishing your body, the body does not need as much food.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on and telling us all about your journey. Quite a journey. Is there, aside from genuinely Maria.com?
GenuinelyMaria.com.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, is there any place, are you also on LinkedIn or?
I'm on LinkedIn. My last name is very common, so you might have a difficult time finding me.
It's Maria Garcia.
Maria Garcia. There's a few of us. Yes. Thank you so much. This was a ton of fun.